Hello and welcome to another episode of Fresher Take. My name is Ben and today I'm going to be talking about COVID-19 vaccinations. Now, basically what we're going to be talking about in this episode is everything to do with getting vaccinated against COVID-19. So we're going to be looking at the process, any potential side effects and debunking any worries or issues that people may have with the vaccination process. Now, to do this, I am joined by two very special guests, two very special students who have in fact had the COVID-19 vaccine already. So please, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a third year animal behaviour student.
Hi, I'm Owen and I'm a first year chemistry for drug discovery and development student.
Thank you very much for coming on the podcast, guys, and thank you for sharing your thoughts, feelings, and experiences with the COVID-19 vaccination. So we'll get straight into the questions. No beating around the bush here. What was the process like for you guys then getting the COVID-19 vaccine? Because I know obviously a lot of people are worried about getting it. I know they're worried about the side effects, and so I want to know what your guys' initial process was like when you got the vaccine.
So for me, I got a text from the GP. So I'm registered at the Lincoln Uni GP, and they just texted me and said that I'm eligible for the vaccine. Would I like to book? And they sent me a link to book. I just clicked on the link, booked a time for the next day. It was either the next day or the day after. And I booked then and there, went a couple of days later, and it was really easy. I just turned up and they were like, "Are you here for your vaccine?" I said yes. Signed in at the front desk. They took me through for my vaccine.
So for me, it was very different. Basically, back in December, I saw a Facebook post for my local chemist. They were looking for people to help out at the local vaccination hub. I put my name forward, and from January to March, I was basically helping out, doing data input and reception type of job. And as part of like the induction and the training, we had to get vaccinated. And so I had the AstraZeneca one back in January.
See, that's really interesting. They're like two completely different stories of how you got it, but realistically the same outcome. Because obviously I know a lot of people and a lot of students are worried that they're sort of going to be one of the last to be vaccinated. I think that's one of the worries. So obviously you guys can sort of preempt them in terms of any worries or any issues that they have. So when you actually got the vaccine, when the needle goes into the arm, what was that like?
To me, getting that vaccine, it was kind of like just a sigh of relief. Like there's light at the end of the tunnel now. We're one step forward. And it also kind of reassured me that like I feel safe within working in the vaccination hub, because obviously it's very risky as it is. But it was just like a general sigh of relief that we're almost out of this whirlwind of a tunnel that's been the past year.
Yeah, almost knowing that the end is near, sort of thing. You know, you've had your vaccine. You know, you've had your vaccine. You're sort of like, right, this is where things hopefully start to get better. Hopefully things start getting back to normal and we can sort of enjoy life again.
Yeah, for me, I'm asthmatic. And when I was younger, I had quite severe asthma, and that's why, and I still do. But I've not been in hospital with it as much now. But when I was younger, it was quite severe, and that's why I was offered it. But before I was offered it, I was quite worried because if I did get coronavirus, I didn't know how my lungs or the rest of my body would cope with that. So once I'd had my first dose, I felt a lot more at ease with, if I do get the virus, I have some sort of protection. But as Rachel said, I feel like it does give us some kind of hope for the future, that as we're all getting the vaccine, things are starting to open up, we can all be safer and get back to some sort of normal.
Yeah, I think that for me, obviously, as someone who has not yet been vaccinated, and you know is going to have to wait for the rollout to get to me, I think that's the thing that I'm most sort of excited for, is that almost the final hurdle has been jumped. You know, you've gone through this year, you've self-isolated, you've kept your social distance, you've been wearing your masks. Things are starting to open up again now. I'm finally going to be able to get vaccinated, which means, you know, touch wood, we will be in a position that we can start moving forward and get back to some true normality. Because I think even with things sort of partially opening and like pubs and beer gardens and things in the UK, you know, you can only serve food or drink outside. Like, it's not quite, do you know what I mean, if you pardon the pun, sort of quenching that thirst for normality. So I think getting that vaccine will allow us to almost, the finish line is in sight, is effectively what I'm trying to get at. So with that, with the finish line nearly being in sight, of course, the first thing you have to get over is any potential worries or anxieties and stuff. So straight after having the vaccine, then, how did you guys feel? Did you were you, obviously you've said you were you know, sort of relieved that you'd got the vaccine, but did you experience any side effects or any, you know, problems in that aspect?
So I had the AstraZeneca vaccine, and I did have side effects. I had like basic flu symptoms. I had chills, fever, shakes, just for around like 2.5, 3 days. But I just looked at it in the long run of the 2.5, 3 days process of just kind of being a bit down and a bit, yeah, it just means that I won't get hospitalized from this virus that has killed millions of people. Like, it's such a big step, that I was really proud to be a part of. So the side effects didn't really affect me mentally in terms of, do I regret the vaccine? I didn't at all. I'm very happy that I had
think
it.
that definitely, almost from what you were saying, like, yeah, you felt a little bit down and you felt a little bit, yeah, but nothing extreme. And I think for someone worrying potentially, or a student worrying about getting the vaccine, you know, I think you've sort of said that, yeah, you might feel a little bit down, but the benefits of being vaccinated and going back to a sense of normality definitely outweigh, oh, I feel a bit down for a couple of days. So what about you? What about you then, Owen? Did you feel anything, or were you all right?
So I had the Pfizer vaccine and I had no side effects whatsoever. I was kind of expecting there to be side effects, but after I had my vaccine, I stayed cautious, as they recommend that you do, and you look out for the side effects. But I had no side effects, and I had it in the afternoon, and in the evening of the same day, I managed to go for a run, and I was perfectly fine. Had no side effects whatsoever. And I know some people can be quite nervous in terms of actually having the jab itself, because some people aren't a massive fan of vaccines, so they've not had them that often. But for me as an asthmatic, I have to have my flu jab every year. So I'm used to having vaccines. I have done every year since I was about 5 or 6 years old. So I'm completely used to having vaccines. So I think there's no need to be scared. It can be quite scary if you don't really have vaccines that often. But it is, think about the millions of people that have done it. If they can do it, so can you. So there's no need to be scared.
Yeah, I think as well that you're both of your stories have definitely outlined that not only that everyone is going to react differently, but as well, like, because, you know, luckily we're young, we're fairly healthy, you know, we're not in an extremely risky category. You know, the side effects hopefully won't be as bad as what people are making out, or the thought of them being, if that makes sense. You know, I think people worry that the side effects are going to be a lot worse than they actually are.
And you have to think, like, as Rachel said, even if I had a side effect or some multiple side effects for a few days or potentially even weeks, that is going to harm me less than if I got the virus and it attacked my lungs and I was hospitalized. And that, having side effects is a lot better than being hospitalized to the virus. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think again, it's just the classic, the benefits outweigh the risks, and I think you have to be almost, I don't want to sound condescending when I say this, but you almost have to be sort of mature in your thinking of less, oh, I don't want a jab, and more, let's think for the long-term future of not only the country, but also the world, and also yourself for the next 70, 80 years. You know, you got to look past that worry of, oh, I don't want a jab, I might feel icky for a couple of days. I think that is the core, and I think you guys have explained that almost perfectly, that, you know, you might have issues, you know, with jabs and with vaccines and with, prescription medicine or anything, you're going to have some side effects at some point potentially, and it's just a case of getting over them and almost just accepting it, really.
I also recommend not sitting around and just waiting for side effects to kick in. I know family members that have seen how I reacted and was kind of expecting the same thing for them, and it just never happened. Side effects are so random, like you it is completely body dependent, like you never know. And I think if you're waiting around for side effects, your brain will cause like a placebo effect, and it will make you start thinking, oh, do I have a fever? Am I going to start shaking? When that's just not the case, it's just your brain. So just don't get it and just think about the side effects. Just have it, try and go on with your day as usual. Obviously, don't do any like heavy lifting or anything like that, but just try and forget about it.
And just because a side effect has happened to a friend or a family member doesn't mean that you're going to get the same side effects if you have the same vaccine. As Ben, Rachel, and I have said, everyone's bodies are different. Everyone's systems react differently to the vaccine. That's completely normal. But just because somebody else has had the side effect doesn't mean you're going to experience it the same.
Yeah, absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head there, Owen. And I do want to quickly just allude to something that you said earlier, Rachel. Obviously, Owen, you do chemistry and look into drug testing and drug creation, and Rachel, you told me that you did a topic on immunology and how vaccines and jabs work on animals. So what were your guys' opinions on seeing the news about the AstraZeneca vaccine potentially being unsafe to people under the age of 30?
I think it's natural that people are scared about something that's new. But as a scientist, I think it's really important to look at the science. And these vaccines have gone through all the normal trials that any vaccine would have to go through. They've just been able to go through them faster because of everyone working together. There's a few different reasons, but the main reason is everyone working together worldwide on one issue. And it's been able to make them go faster, but that doesn't mean they're any less safe. And there's been so many misconceptions that have been going around about these vaccines. But if you look at the science, I see, and what most scientists, and definitely the scientists in the UK regulatory authority and those advising the government, they see that these vaccines are safe. They've looked at the science and they can see that these vaccines are safe, and all of the side effects that are being brought up are very minimal and don't happen that.
Yeah, I mean, the government have to, by law, say that any risk to any piece of medication, like when you get your vaccine, you will get a leaflet. It's similar to the leaflets that you get in like any medication box, and it will just list all the side effects and the risks that come with it and the chance of you getting the risks.
And that's the same with any drugs that you get or any vaccine. They tell you the risk that even if you have paracetamol in the box, if you take out in the leaflet, it will tell you all of the possible side effects and the risk of getting them.
Yeah, I think it's a case, again, someone who has only studied, media and journalism and stuff. I'm not as clued up as you guys at all. So, I love that you guys have got a really in-depth knowledge on it. But from what I see, and someone who's not been vaccinated or anything, from what I see, it's just a case of they have to cover their back. Like you said, with paracetamol, it says you can die, but at the same time, you can die from getting kicked in the face by a horse. Like the things that happen are so minute, but they still can happen. And I think that is what the media have taken up. The fact that it can happen means that it will happen. And I think that isn't necessarily 100% accurate and can almost create this scaremongering effect without even really meaning to among the young. Because, when I saw that, I initially thought, oh, God, I want to get the vaccine. I want to get back to normal. But am I at more or less risk because of these blood clotting issues and other health issues related to it? But it turns out now, clearly not. But I think it's important to talk about, especially with a lot of people worrying about getting the vaccine.
Yeah, and I think don't be worried about which vaccine you're going to get. It very much depends on the location that you're going to, as well as what they can get in that place. So for me, I had the Pfizer because I because it was booked through the GP, I had mine at a medical practice about 15-minute walk from here, the other side of town for me. And because that's a medical centre, they have the freezers that are required for the Pfizer vaccine to keep it at the right temperature. Whereas one of my housemates, she got a text from the NHS telling her to book, and she went through the NHS website and did that, and they told her to go to Lincolnshire Showground. So because that's in a field, they don't have those freezers. So that she had the AstraZeneca vaccine because that needs to be kept at a fridge temperature rather than a freezer temperature.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you get, you're still going to get the desired outcome, which is immunity from COVID-19. And it's actually come out as well, I will quickly say, because I've done a little bit of research because I'm just dead clever. And again, you guys can double check this because you are the clever ones here. I'm just the voice, I guess. That no matter what vaccine you have, I think specifically the statement was to do with the AstraZeneca vaccine, that even one dose reduces your chances of spreading the virus to other people by up to 50%, which from a selfless point of view is a massive benefit. You know, even if you don't want to have it yourself and you'd rather have it to protect other people, which is the main reason I'm doing it, because in a previous podcast episode I've talked about that I had COVID and I've had COVID before. So for me, it's more of I want to keep others around me safe. Knowing that just one dose of any of the vaccines can reduce that up to half is a massive benefit.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's not only about protecting yourself, but about protecting the people that you care about, the people that you see. If we're looking at going back to face-to-face teaching at university, you've got to think you're not only protecting yourself, you're protecting your peers. And I know myself and most students want to go back to face-to-face teaching. And it's only going to be possible if we keep following all these guidelines. If as many people as possible, when you're called upon to do so, get your vaccine, it means that going forward into the next academic year, we'll be in a lot better place to hopefully resume face-to-face teaching. I think it is important to mention that if you have had your vaccine, you still need to adhere to all the government guidelines around social distancing, wearing a face mask, all of that, because it doesn't stop you it doesn't completely stop you from spreading it to other people, or it doesn't actually stop you from getting the virus yourself. It just means that your body has the mechanism to be able to deal with that, so that you're then not hospitalised and you're not a burden on the NHS, but also you're still alive.
Yeah. The vaccine isn't going to completely get rid of COVID. You know, COVID is going to be something that is now unfortunately instilled in everyday life. But what obviously these vaccines are trying to do is they're trying just to minimise the amount of people dying from it. So COVID in maybe 5 or 10 years time will be referred to in the same way of when you have a cold. You just go, oh, I've got a cold. You sort of just get over it. It's not as deadly as it was.
I think it might become the new flu.
Yeah.
As in, like, people like myself who are asthmatic or at high risk to flu have to have a flu jab every year. And I think there's a potential that we might have to have a COVID jab every year as well. That's something that scientists have been alluding to, that might be what needs to happen in the future.
Yeah. So, Rachel, I'm going to come to you as well, actually. Obviously, you study the immunology of animals as opposed to humans. But I guess humans are animals, aren't they, really? So what are your sort of experiences and what are your sort of interpretations of this vaccine from someone who has studied immunology and has studied its effects on animals?
I think it's important to note, because I don't think it's been advertised as much, that it does take 3 weeks to kick in. So for those 3 weeks, take precautions. Obviously, when you get the vaccine, you are protected, but others aren't, and you can still carry the virus asymptomatically. But within those 3 weeks, you are still susceptible to getting the virus and being hospitalised by it. So continue social distancing, continue wearing masks when out. Just kind of take regular tests just to ensure that you're not endangering the lives of others. And then also, a lot of misconceptions about the second vaccine. It's just a booster. It just kind of brings it from like 80% to 100% effective. And again, that takes like an extra week to kind of kick in. So all in all, it does take time, but even once it's done, maintain social distancing, sanitize your hands, wear masks, and yeah.
Yeah, very true. And again, more insight than I think I could ever give to do with vaccinations. You know, like I said, I'm just someone that studies the journalistic and media side of things, and you know, I know how it's been blown out of proportion, but I don't know the science, which is another reason why you guys are on the podcast, not just because you've had a vaccine.
It is really, really interesting, the science of the vaccines. There's a few different vaccines that they've used for coronavirus, and one of them is an mRNA vaccine. And the Pfizer vaccine is mRNA, and so is the Moderna vaccine. And it's the first time that mRNA vaccines have ever been used outside of clinical trials. So it's kind of a massive breakthrough for science, and that's one of the reasons why it was developed so fast, was because there's been previous research into the coronavirus family, not particularly the COVID-19 strain, but that's one of the reasons why it came out so fast, was because they'd previously done research into the coronavirus family. But the way this mRNA vaccine works is the mRNA is kind of the surface protein, and they put into your body. So your body can, in a sense, produce the coronavirus from the mRNA. So it's like the mRNA is the skeleton of the coronavirus. They give you the skeleton so that your body can produce the coronavirus and learn to fight against it, so that if it actually gets the coronavirus, it has fought against it before. So they're not actually giving you coronavirus, because that would be not necessarily the best thing to do. Some people do have the misconception that when you're getting the vaccine, they're literally giving you coronavirus, which isn't true. If you get the Pfizer or the Moderna, they're giving you the mRNA, which is the skeleton, so that your body is able to recognise the vaccine and be able to fight it effectively.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Most of that was just absolute chemistry jargon that that a mere media production and journalism student would not be able to understand. Sounds good. I heard protein, I heard mRNA, I heard skeleton, which I know are chemistry words. You could have you could have said anything to me then, and I'd have gone, yeah, sounds great. But clearly, you guys know what you're talking about, and that is why you're on the podcast, like I said, because not only have you had the vaccine, but you're also dead clever, which is something I unfortunately, the qualifications I just can't tick, unfortunately. So the last question I'll give to you then, guys, is what would you say to someone that is hesitant about getting the vaccine? You know, in a few sentences, what would you say to them as simply as you can?
I would honestly just do your research into it, look into how other people found it, look into the specific vaccine that you think you're having done. It might tell you on the NHS website, or on the NHS website, and it says like certain places, you can then contact that certain place and ask what vaccine they've got, and then look into it. But I think the main rule of thumb is each vaccine does the same thing. It's protecting you from COVID, and that is the priority here. If you do question people on how they found it, and they did have side effects, don't take it to heart. Like I said before, everyone's body is different. You don't know how your body's going to react, but they really aren't the end of the world. 2 days of just feeling a bit poorly is worth it in the long run for being COVID-19 vaccinated.
Yeah, completely agreed. And I would say, look at science. I'm a very sciencey guy.
Of course you would,
Love
Owen.
a
Of
bit of
course you'd
science.
say look at the science.
But I would say look at the research, look at the science. And what I would say is, if it wasn't safe, it wouldn't be approved. And so many millions of people have had it, and the amount of people that get serious side effects and are still hospitalised afterwards is quite small. And if you look at the research, look at the statistics, and look at what the key scientists and people in charge are saying. So in the UK, the MHRA and the EMA, so the European Medical Authority, have approved all the vaccines that are being used. So if they deem it as safe and they have all the knowledge and expertise in the area, I don't see any reason why ourselves, who have a lot less experience and research in that area, shouldn't trust what they're saying.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely bob on. Your both interpretations of or advice of what to say to people that are hesitant or worried about getting it is pretty much perfect. And I think I'm definitely going to take that advice on. You know, obviously I understand the vaccine and I understand roughly what it's about and what it can and can't do and the safety implications and stuff. But I think before I get my vaccine, I'm definitely going to make sure I'm clued up so I'm 100% certain as to what's going to happen to me. It's important to note that any vaccine you are given has been tested under strict clinical trials, and the same can be said for the Pfizer and the AstraZeneca vaccine. If the vaccines weren't safe, over 1 billion people that have already had their vaccine wouldn't have been able to. So please, if you can get vaccinated, please do. This is for the safety of you and others around you. Of course, as well, it goes without saying that just because you've had the vaccine doesn't mean all is good. We're not out of the park just yet. So please still adhere to the government guidelines. This includes the 2-metre social distancing rule and wearing a mask. This will ensure that you are keeping everyone, including yourself, even more safe. Just because you've had the vaccine doesn't mean you're 100% safe just yet. We've just got to wait that little bit longer until we are fully free of this worry of government guidelines and lockdown. And that is it. That is this episode of the Fresh Take podcast done and dusted. Hopefully you are a little bit more at ease and more aware of the process of COVID vaccinations. Of course, this podcast wouldn't have been possible without the expertise of Rachel and Owen. So thank you very much, guys, for coming on the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. Thank you for having us.
As always, it's a pleasure, guys. It's a pleasure. You're welcome back on any time. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, or thank you very much for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed as always. If you want more fantastic top-notch student content from myself, Rachel, Owen, and all of the other members of the Student Life team, make sure you stay locked to all of our social media channels and our website as we produce, in my opinion, some of the best student-based content you can get. So that is UOL Student Life on all social medias, and if you just type in University of Lincoln Student Life into Google, our website will come up as well for some fantastic blogs, some fantastic videos, and all round a good time. But until the next time, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.